Your mind is under the control of an advanced holographic technology. Your mind is under the control of a witch's hex, disinformation and propaganda, a sorcerer's enchantment, and an interdimensional secret government. You believe you are free, but you're operating under the influence of a mind-controlled drug. Well, hello. My name is L Israel. I'm an academic by training and a trainer by trade. My superpowers, in addition to superhuman strength and endurance, include the ability to process transdisciplinary information and to synthesize concepts into novel forms of thinking. I view popular culture as a reflection of human psychology and experience. My overarching thesis is that the Black Iron Prison, articulated by Philip K. Dick, aka the Martin Luther King of science fiction writing, is the best contemporary framework for understanding the existential nature of reality. So let's get to it. What's the Black Iron Prison? Well, first of all, it's black, not in contrast to white, but in contrast to transparency. In this context, black means opaque, meaning that it neither radiates light or allows light to pass through, at least not undistorted. Therefore, light in this context can be understood as truth. So the blackness of the Iron Prison can be understood as a control that functions to filter information. This can be seen in the dynamic between Wanda and Vision, where she ensures his compliance by withholding vital information, or in Black Widow's search for both information about her real family and the location of the mysterious Black Room. The most transparent example of the weaponization of misinformation can be seen in the LOKI series, where even the agents of the Time Variance Authority don't know the true purpose of their agency, which is insane, because not only do they have the power to take lives, they wield the authority to destroy entire universes with impunity. Prison. This is a concept we're all familiar with. It's simply an institution that strips you of your freedom. Actually, it's not that simple. At its most nefarious, prison doesn't just simply strip you of your freedom, it strips you of your agency. Here's the difference. While in the artificial reality of the Hex, Vision is not free, because the facts that would inform his decision-making are being strategically withheld. He later learns the truth, but he still isn't free, because he learns if he leaves the Hex, he can no longer exist. Despite this lack of freedom, Vision still maintains his agency, because he has the ability to choose his own actions, pursue goals, and determine his own destiny, albeit in the constraints of the Hex. In contrast, the entire town of Westview has no autonomy. When the poor town folk are not under the total control of the Scarlet Witch, they physically exist in a state of suspended animation, their consciousness treading water in the sunken place. The Red Guardian is another example. He's literally in a prison. His freedom is dramatically restricted. Yet he retains his agency because he can choose to use his superpowers to be an advocate protecting the weak inmates against the strong, or he can choose to be the Bob Bull Hurley of Siberia. The choice is his. Autonomy intact. Contrarily, the Black Widows are free in that they are not physically confined. They're not being controlled remotely during their fighting sequences with somebody dictating when they kick, flip, roll, or dodge. Yet they lack agency because they have no power when it comes to making the decisions that will give their lives meaning. They are in control of their bodies, but not in control of their lives until this scene.
I'm at the hand. You get to make your own choices now.
Iron, a word synonymous with hard metal. But hard in relation to what? As far as metals go, iron is not exceptionally tough. But when paired against flesh and bone, iron may as well be adamantium. It's this contraposition that gives iron, in the Black Iron Prison concept, its salience. The character of Iron Man is a perfect example of this duality. The synthesis of iron and man is a union of polarities. In contrast to humanity, iron is inorganic, inanimate, incapable of feeling or actualizing potential. As stark as the differences, there are many similarities between iron and man. Iron is a mineral, which makes it a product of nature, just like humanity. The expression, rule with an iron fist, makes perfect sense to us. It brings to mind the brutal dictator, inflexible and dogmatic, ruthless and unrepentant. We use the term iron-hearted to signify cruelty, apathy, and unjust harshness. In the union of iron and man, more man than iron can yield this. More iron than man will yield this. Okay, Israel. Blackness, ironness, prison.
Get all of that.
So what? So application. Let's look at Loki, for example. In case you're not familiar with Norse mythology, Marvel, or the subtle hints spliced throughout the show, he's the horned god of pagan lore. As the horned god, Loki is the personification of hedonism, debauchery, self-serving narcissism, and treachery. Lest you forget, this is Loki.
Kneel before me. I said...
Loki is enslaved by the Loki identity, by every quantifiable measure, by every reductionist, deterministic calculation. Sure as 1 + 1 + 1 must equal 3. No matter how many variants of the archetype, a Loki must choose evil over good. Or must he? That's the essential question. The show presents us with a Loki that is overcoming nature. By some mysterious mechanism, he is escaping his biological, psychological, social, and cosmic constraints. This is noticed and viewed as a threat to the TVA, a trans-dimensional government dedicated to the eradication of non-equilibrium fluctuations, that is, anomalies, also known as variants and nexus events. As I said, the TVA's mission is to preserve interdimensional order. Loki and us, the audience, believe that the literal god of chaos would be a big deal, but for the TVA it's not. Their concept of order depends on the existence of Loki as a foil. He is not an opponent, he's a sparring partner, a teaching tool. Hilariously, this is also the message that I have for modern witches who are upset with my last video on WandaVision.
This isn't about you.
The real enemy of the TVA is the implicit danger of a reality it can't control. The Loki that is not a Loki is unpredictable, and like Einstein once famously said, God doesn't play dice with the universe. As such, the TVA finds uncertainty abhorrent and moreover terrifying. But the real horror is what Loki finds behind the curtain. After fighting his way to the metaphorical end of the earth to confront the devil in the search for truth, he finally comes face to face with the taker of lives, the consumer of worlds, the reaper of reality fields. But he doesn't find a devil cloaked in self-serving ideologies of supremacy. He doesn't find a monster maniacally bent on multidimensional domination. He finds a human being who is perhaps the best version of himself. A man that appears to be genuine in his understanding that his actions, tyrannical as they may be, were necessary for the best interest of humanity and therefore justifiable. What comes next is a proposition and a faithful decision. One that can be analyzed through a variety of lenses. But through the framework of the black iron prison concept, the choice looks like this. Open the door to an inherently free, but inherently flawed reality, where the phrase, anything can happen, has overwhelmingly negative implications. And the most probable outcome is a lot of hell and little hope. Option number 2 is dominion over a sanitized reality, shielded from existential threat, but at the expense of the miraculous, the divine, the anthropic as opposed to enthropic. A reality, in many ways, where man sits as God. Loki's dilemma is a perfect illustration of the complexity and nuance of the good and the idea of right action. The instinct to protect the vulnerable, to safeguard liberty, and minimize suffering can result in tyranny, feeding the black iron prison just as heartily as if it were an overtly oppressive ideology. The irony. By escaping his local B.I.P, Loki draws the attention of a more expansive B.I.P, which he also attempts to escape, but in the process spawns an infinite number of B.I.Ps. Meta-irony. Loki is a master of escape, whether through cunning, resurrection, or luck. He's proven himself essentially impossible to kill. Like Loki, the Black Iron Prison takes many forms. Higher dimensional versions of the B.I.P arise from the ashes of its predecessors. It is metaphysical and incarnate. It is immortal. A Lebengeist. The key to understanding the esoteric knowledge embedded in the Marvel grand narrative is understanding that the superpowers and magic that we see performed in the Marvel universe, as miraculous as they may appear, are merely properties of a naturalized metaphysics. They are subordinate to fundamental laws. The true source of authentically supernatural phenomenon operates unrestrained by law and can only be conceptualized
as the one above all.